Hello everyone, Revan619 here, doing a little video after we've had the Alcat announcements and the Q&A session so we can sort of go through what's coming in the next update and what to expect. So we've now got a release date of the 24th of next month for Lex Imperialis. Apparently the fact that Darktide is also releasing an Arbiters entirely unknown to the team, strict coincidence, but it's cool that they've got the sort of crossover thing with theirs coming out the day before. But let's talk about what we've got coming for it. So the update 1.4 is not going to come out till later in autumn, so we're not expecting any major balance changes, but there might be some small tweaks with the actual DLC drop, but I don't think it'll be anything more than what happened with 1.2 when the DLC came, because we only had a few updates, and then the 1.3 update that did the balance changes came much later. That 1.4 balance is going to be a lot more light-handed on the nerves than they said, but there are some things that they need to adjust. This means that with the DLC, don't expect to see many operative improvements, don't expect to see many assassin improvements or many vanguards. That they're probably still going to stay as some of the weakest archetypes, with stuff like Bounty Hunter, Master Technician still being quite niche. Whilst usable on lower difficulties, you don't really run them much on unfair, because the top builds are obviously still Warrior, Soldier, Blade Dancer, and then your Arc Militants and your Executioners. There are some other things coming with it, so we can expect to see stuff like the new archetype in itself with the Overseer. The Overseer seems to be bringing a lot. The Cyber Raven is actually going to break the game on how we do AoE buffs for Psychers. You can expect to get some real tanking abilities from the Cyber Mastiff, so finally you're actually going to have a dedicated tank build possible. So an Arbitas using the Shield Specialist as a Warrior and then an Overseer is probably going to be the best tank at launch, so we can expect to see that being quite good with the DLC drop. Shotguns are getting a buff. So universally, instead of costing 2 AP, they're going to cost 1. This is going to have some major buffs for area builds for soldiers, but also it's going to buff mixed attackers, because it means that the shotgun pistols are going back down to 1 AP, even though 1.3 changed them to 2 AP. This means stuff like a warrior mixed attacker is going to be quite viable before you get the Arc Militant's cape. So before Act 4, you'll be able to use the shotgun with the single area attacks with that. So the Arbitas Origins are going to be adding a lot, and I think it's going to have a massive creep with what the meta is for Origins, and it's going to be basically pay to win when it comes to that. Most of the non-psych Origins are pretty bad, and they're all, if they're not just useless, they're sort of one turn only useful, but these Arbitas ones are coming with a lot of stuff for buffs for shotguns, buff for shouts, and buffs for shields. I think they're going to be the meta picks for your Rogue Trader runs until 1.4, outside of Psychers, that is. Hopefully 1.4 will address the massive imbalance between the non-paid DLC Origins and the DLC Origin, but that will remain to seen. Alcat have said that they are aware of a lot of the balance issues, but how and if they can fix that remains to be seen, and it might be stuff that actually just gets fixed with the next game. Dark Heresy has heavily hinted at that Psychers will be changed to an archetype from an Origin, so that will actually fix a lot of the balance issue for that, but obviously that's not going to come to Rogue Trader. We're going to see the addition of shields, so we're going to have universal shield talents coming in. This is going to obviously be a nice little buff to A-Blood indirectly, because you'll be able to use shields. That if it adds good deflection, it probably means that Vanguard's going to be less useful, and you're sort of still going to be wanting to go Warrior to get that AoE taunt, to go into Arc Militant so you can stack Dependable to increase your defenses, as well as being able to increase your attack economy and movement to get into position to actually be useful, which Vanguard often can't because they get movement trapped after an attack. So that means that your meta tank build for companions is probably going to be A-Blood with a shield, but if you're building your own Rogue Trader, then obviously it's going to be the Overseer with the shield, and probably going with the dog companion. So there is that to come. But I think it's going to be some interesting other things that we're going to see with the shotgun stuff. It's going to be an indirect buff to heavy weapons builds, because they'll be able to do 1 AP area attacks with shotguns early game, and then they'll be able to do those big burst fires afterwards, because all those area attacks will prime their damage abilities, and then late game you obviously switch over to a heavy flamer, but that again is going to be tied a little bit behind DLC 1. So again, we're seeing 2 massive power creeps from the DLC. We're also going to be seeing another 15 hours of content, maybe actually more. They say 15, but Lex Imperialis might actually be more than that, the same way as DLC 1 Void Shadows turned out to be more than 15 hours of content, but it depends how quickly you get through it. Some people take 200 hours to complete the base game. We've shown that you can do it in 24 hours when we did the Grim Dark Challenge, whilst hitting and completing every main and side quest at the same time. So how much time you actually get out of it is probably going to be vary person to person, but it's still going to be probably pleasing to most. I think the base DLC was definitely worth it, and from what we've seen with Lex, I think it's also going to be worth it. And because you've already got the season pass, then yeah, you should be just getting that anyway. If you're going to buy season 2, that's going to be more up to you. It is going to be bringing exactly what I wanted to bring. I'm not going to discuss that too much here. But yeah, the Necron stuff, fantastic. The Ship Graveyard and the Void, also fantastic. Like, these were stuff that I really wanted to see, and some expansions coming with that. Concerning Overseer itself, we've had some of the abilities revealed and what it does. The Cyber Eagle seems to have some abilities based on perception, and the Servo Swarm seems to have abilities based on fellowship. Hopefully it's not that the way that the Eagle is for operatives and the Servo Swarm is for officers, because unfortunately that destroys my Pascal aesthetics. But they did say that one of the reasons of bringing this to operative was they felt that Bounty Hunter being the most useful build for Pascal didn't fit him thematically, so they wanted to add another option. Yes, you can also use Grand Strategist, but again, it didn't quite feel what they wanted to go for with that. But we'll see how that turns out. But I imagine we're going to be getting build updates for everyone, especially with what I'm going to do. Even if their main meta build doesn't change, I will definitely give alternative builds that people will have with the Overseer, so you can expect to see that coming through with the DLC. Content-wise, once the DLC has dropped, I will be looking to go back through over some of the older builds and to update some of those runs, because the items that you're going to have are going to change, the sort of the end game builds are going to change, and how you progress might actually change as well. So my older builds, like obviously the Warrior Pyromancer, that's going to change a little bit. I doubt the Blade Dance Pyromancer is going to change, because unless they add some new overpowered Force Swords, but I don't think anything's going to replace those Warp Fire Swords. The Space Wizard, the Soldier Pyromancer, that's probably going to change a little bit. I've already updated the builds in the background prior to the DLC, so it'll be interesting to see what that does. I've also updated my officer builds. I have Master Tactician, Psyker Officer builds, as well as Non-Psyker, and the same for Grand Strategist. So for those of you looking to see that, do check the sheet. I've also updated a Biomancer Pure Tank build, so if you want to have a maximum Warrior Vanguard tank, that's also on the sheet, along with some other things. But overall, I think 1.4 is going to change a lot more than, say, the DLC. The DLC is going to have a nice set of upgrades and additions, but I think 1.4, which might be coming September or autumn time-ish, that's when we're going to see the most build changes and stuff. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun next month. Let me know what you're looking forward to, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.